The meaning you assign to any experience determines your entire emotional destiny. Because every moment of your life is filtered through the interpretation you give it. Two people can live through the exact same event, same loss, same challenge, same rejection, and end up in completely different emotional worlds. One feels destroyed, the other feels awakened. One collapses, the other rises. And the difference isn't luck, strength, or circumstance, it's meaning. Meaning is the invisible force shaping whether you respond with hope or despair, courage or fear, certainty or hesitation. Most people never realize that they're not reacting to life itself. They're reacting to the interpretation they've created about what life is doing to them. And that interpretation becomes the architect of how they feel, how they show up, and what they believe is possible from that moment forward. When something difficult happens, the mind instantly searches for a meaning because human beings cannot tolerate uncertainty. We need to classify, label, define, explain. But in that split second where your mind assigns meaning, your emotional destiny is set unless you consciously intervene. A painful moment can become the story that breaks you or the story that builds you. The event itself is powerless. It's the meaning that either drains your power or unleashes it. This is why some people carry wounds for years. Not because the event continues, but because the meaning they created continues to live inside them. The meaning becomes a loop, a pattern, a lens through which everything else gets filtered. And people wonder why they feel stuck, why they repeat the same emotional cycles, why they can't seem to move forward. It's not the event holding them, it's the meaning of the event. Think about a time in your life when you felt defeated or rejected. It wasn't the experience alone that hurt you. It was the meaning you attached to it. Maybe you told yourself you weren't good enough, that you were unworthy, that life wasn't on your side, that this always happens to you. Those meanings created the emotional state that followed, the doubt, the hesitation, the fear, the shrinking. And that emotional state influenced your decisions. You avoided opportunities. You pulled back. You protected yourself. You lowered your expectations. Slowly, without realizing it, the meaning you created became the author of your identity. And identity controls everything. But here's what most people never discover. Meaning is a choice. You can choose a meaning that empowers you just as easily as you can choose one that weakens you. You can decide that a challenge means strength is being built. You can decide that a loss means space is being cleared for something greater. You can decide that rejection means redirection. The event is neutral. Your interpretation is what gives it emotional weight. When you understand this, you stop being a victim of life and start becoming the master of it. You reclaim your emotional power, your clarity, and your ability to create a future that isn't dictated by your past. The meaning you assign doesn't only influence how you feel in the moment. It influences who you become over time. Give something a meaning of, I'm not capable, and you'll shrink into a smaller version of yourself. Give it a meaning of, this is preparing me, and you'll step into growth. Give it a meaning of, this always happens to me, and you'll live with the mindset of limitation. Give it a meaning of, life is refining me, and you cultivate resilience, strength, and faith in your own capacity. Emotional destiny is not a mystery. It is the direct result of the meanings you choose repeatedly. Even your positive emotions follow this law. Gratitude, joy, fulfillment, none of these come from circumstances alone. They come from the meaning you give to what is happening right now. Two people can stand in the same room with the same blessings, yet one feels abundance while the other feels lack. Why? Meaning. One focuses on what something represents, the other focuses on what it's missing. One interprets life as supporting them. The other interprets life as limiting them. The difference between fulfillment and emptiness is meaning. The difference between suffering and strength is meaning. The difference between fear and courage is meaning. And once you understand this, you unlock the ability to shift your emotional world instantly. When you decide that you are the creator of meaning, not the prisoner of meaning, you step into a completely different level of personal power. You stop letting old interpretations dictate your behavior. You stop letting past pain define present identity. You stop letting fear-based meaning steal your future. Instead, you begin asking different questions. What else could this mean? What meaning would serve my growth? What interpretation would move me forward instead of holding me back? And those questions shift the mind out of fear into possibility. Your emotional destiny is never controlled by the event, the circumstance, the person, or the challenge. It is controlled by the meaning you attach to it. And when you understand that, when you truly feel it in your bones, you realize that you have always had the power to transform how you experience every part of your life. Your identity is shaped by the stories you continually tell yourself, because every belief you hold, every limitation you feel, and every expectation you carry is born from an inner narrative you've repeated so many times it becomes the truth you live by. Identity isn't something you're born with, it's something you construct, piece by piece, moment by moment, story by story. And most people don't even realize that the identity controlling their life is not who they truly are, but who they've been conditioned to believe they are. From childhood experiences, failures, successes, fears, and the interpretations you placed on those moments, you created a narrative that became the blueprint for how you think, act, and show up in the world. The story became familiar, and because it was familiar, it felt true. But familiarity and truth are not the same thing. And too many people are living inside a story that no longer serves them. Every time you tell yourself, I'm not enough, I always mess things up, I can't do that, or that's just who I am, you reinforce a version of yourself that was created in a moment of fear, not clarity. And without realizing it, that story becomes your identity. It shapes your posture, your decisions, your reactions, your confidence, your habits. It decides whether you take action or hold back, whether you pursue your dreams or settle for less, whether you trust yourself or doubt every step. Identity is the most powerful force in human psychology because once you believe a story about who you are, you will do almost anything to stay consistent with it, even if it limits you, even if it hurts you, even if it keeps your life smaller than your potential. People say they want change, but they cling to the story that prevents the change. They want confidence, but they hold on to a story of insecurity. They want success, but they carry a story of unworthiness. They want strong relationships, but they repeat a story of betrayal or fear. They want progress, but they tell a story that they are stuck. And the mind listens, the mind believes, the mind obeys the story because identity is the command center. If the story says this is who I am, the mind will adjust every emotion and action to remain in alignment with that identity. You can see this everywhere. Someone who believes they're shy will avoid opportunities to speak up, not because they lack the ability, but because the story tells them they must stay silent. Someone who believes they're broken will sabotage relationships, not because they can't love, but because the story tells them they're unworthy of being loved. Someone who believes they are destined to struggle will miss opportunities, not because they're unlucky, but because the story tells them success is not who they are. The story comes first. Life follows. But the most empowering part of this truth is that stories can be rewritten. Identity can evolve. You are not locked into the narrative you created at a younger, less experienced, more fearful version of yourself. You can choose a new story that reflects the strength you've gained, the wisdom you've earned, the resilience you've built. You can decide that the old narrative is no longer the author of your life, because the moment you change the story, you change the identity. And once identity shifts, behavior naturally aligns with the new version of you. When you start telling yourself a different story, the story of someone who is capable, someone who is determined, someone who is resilient, someone who refuses to be defined by their past, your mind begins to recalibrate. You start making decisions from strength instead of fear. You start showing up with certainty instead of hesitation. You start expecting more from yourself. And life responds to the level of expectation you hold. A new story doesn't just change how you think, it changes who you become. And who you become changes everything. We often underestimate the power of our inner narrative because it's invisible, silent, and constant. But it is shaping your destiny more than any external circumstance in your life. Change your environment and your story will overpower it. Change your routine and the old story will pull you back. But change your story. Change the very identity you believe in. And the world no longer has the power to limit you. You rise above old patterns. You move differently. You think differently. You respond differently. You live differently. You must become the guardian of your inner narrative. You must catch yourself when you repeat a story that diminishes your strength. You must question the story that tells you you're limited. You must challenge the story that was created by a younger version of you who didn't have the tools, understanding, or confidence you have today. And then you must choose a story aligned with the life you want to create. Because the story becomes the belief. The belief becomes the identity, and the identity becomes the destiny. Your story is not fixed. Your identity is not permanent. You can break the narrative that has confined you and step into a version of yourself that reflects your true potential instead of your past experiences. And the moment you do, your entire life expands to meet the new identity you claim.